I'm Tara.
And I'm Austin.
And we're a married couple.
And we are here to lovingly snark on Hallmark's Countdown to Christmas lineup. But wait, we're going to do something a little different this holiday season because it's Happy Snarksgiving, y'all.
Yes, Happy Snarksgiving. We have a little bit, I don't know how customary it is on your family's Snarksgiving celebration, but in our family for Snarksgiving, we just today started the tradition of bringing you a gift.
A time-honored gift-giving tradition for Snarksgiving. So we're kind of at the halfway point for this Christmas season with Hallmark. And so we decided, what better way to do that than to kind of give you a little bit insight? Because we've watched every single movie, almost except for one, up until this point. And we thought we would kind of let you know where they're ranking, even if we haven't maybe released a whole podcast about it before.
Right. And that is our Snarksgiving gift to you, is our lovely commentary, our sort of mid-season or halftime show situation for how we feel about everything we've seen up until this point.
Your Snarksgiving parade.
That's right. We're going to parade. We're going to go through all the movies. Okay. So the way that we're going to do this is obviously a very different format from what we normally do. So you're along for this ride with us as we kind of
figure it out
where this goes. But we were talking about movies so far, and last year we never did get to the point where we got to rank them all.
Right.
And so we didn't really know how we would approach that. And it became very apparent that we didn't want to rank them in terms of
like sequential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Instead, we decided to zone rank them. So grouping them together, where we just say there's kind of the bottom tier, the middle tier, and the upper tier. And then we ended up sort of organically developing a mid-bottom tier.
The snark zones.
And so, yeah, the snark zones for this, we labeled them as green, meant that it was like a great movie that
and you should watch it.
Would want to watch again, that stood out amongst the pack for the season, favorites, if you will. And then the yellow is just your run-of-the-mill Hallmark movie. So the things that we expect to see, there's nothing particularly bad about them. And then the red tier was the ones that are just like, skip it, don't want to watch it again.
And it's not even
our
worth
favorite.
Like snarking about.
Right.
Like, because even some of the bad movies that are snarkable get bumped up a tier.
And then as we were doing it, we both ranked these individually. We ranked for Countdown to Christmas and we did Miracles of Christmas because we have been watching those. And so that is our little treat for you, because we haven't really talked about our thoughts on those except for the Christmas Ring, which we did do a snark attack on. But so we did it for both of those. And then along with that, we then talked about it and kind of put them into collective rankings. But because we had some disagreement on a couple of them, we have an orange tier, which is the ones that are between yellow and red. So
because yellow and red make orange.
Oh my gosh, you're so smart. All right, so we want to start with the bottom and work our way up in the spirit of ending on the positive note of the things that we enjoyed.
Right. So for Countdown to Christmas, that's what we're going to start with, and then we'll do Miracles. So for Countdown to Christmas, our bottom tier.
We had 3, I think is what I have here.
I have 3.
Okay. So what were those 3?
Christmas with the Darlings.
Which, if you notice, we didn't even do a podcast.
It wasn't
on Christmas with the Darlings.
It just forgettable storyline. Like the storyline wasn't interesting. The acting wasn't interesting. I love kids and Christmas movies, but the kids just didn't draw me in. I feel like it needed something else to get it there.
And it was a bit of a bummer because this one did give us our one lesbian storyline of the season.
That's so
far.
true.
It wasn't a primary storyline. The main character, and I don't even remember her name now, but her best friend is a surgeon, and she's like falling in love with the woman at the coffee shop and then invites her to the things. And so there's like a secondary romance there.
So just YouTube that part of the movie and you'll be fine. That's all you
need to see. It's maybe a grand total of like 4 minutes in the whole movie. But that was one thing that was delightful to see. But otherwise, everything else was pretty much just really forgettable there. What are the other 2?
A Nashville Christmas Carol.
Yes, Nashville Christmas Carol.
It shouldn't have even been called Christmas Carol. Like, we didn't get a Ghost of Christmas Future.
Right.
Because clearly that's not on brand for Hallmark to show death.
Yeah, Austin's out there tweeting like that scary Ghost of Christmas Future ghost. It's like, that's a different...
It's a different story. But it's like, there was no Scrooge character. There weren't.
She was a Scrooge a little bit.
She was not. She was like, oh, I kind of started valuing this and just needed to be reconnected. It was more of like a Cupid story.
But she, like, as a director, she was making people take like multiple takes to get it right.
Yeah.
She was a little bit too much of a perfectionist. I think that's like Scrooge light. That's the most that they can get away. They don't want to make their main character wholly unlikable.
It's Scrooge Zima.
Scrooge Zima. It's the Zima of Scroogedom. For all of you who were drinking Zimas in the 90s, which we were not.
But we knew about it.
Well, we heard about it. And then our last one in that category is Chateau Christmas. Again, for just being...
Not good.
Blah. Like, just a of bloody blahs.
We talked about this one, and it's like, I can appreciate the fact that he's playing the actual cello in this. Like,
that was the highlight.
That's amazing, but the story was uninteresting. Why the chateau? Why all of it? Yeah, it's just one. Skip it.
And then in our orange tier, this is where we had some controversy.
Yeah. So Christmas in Vienna was an easy orange for us because it was a beautiful showcasing of Vienna, but that's about it. Yeah. So it wasn't, and that's like, I did like a little bit of the nod of The Sound of Music. It just wasn't done well. But the thing is, it's like, I wouldn't avoid that movie, whereas the other ones I would actively avoid.
Right. And for me, I had Christmas in Vienna in my red zone. We bumped up to an orange based on our conversation because I really had two factors that canceled each other out. So Vienna, elevated it a little bit. I do like seeing Vienna on the screen, but then Brennan Elliott's character just being so like not romantic by just turning her down and kind of leading her on for most of the movie. I didn't buy into the romance, and so it canceled out the Vienna.
His hair was also incredibly distracting for me, and no one mentioned this, but it just looked like he had a helmet on.
So good old helmet hair there. And then, so we had that one. And then we very much disagreed on the Monday night of Thanksgiving week movie, Heart of the Holidays, which we are not doing a podcast on because Austin barely made it through the movie.
It did not hold my attention. I didn't find the performances interesting. I didn't find the storyline interesting. And normally something pulls me in. And there wasn't even anything really all that snarkable about it. So to me, it was just like, I'd rather watch a rerun than this.
And we don't ever want to bring you poor content. And if we had to try to do, there were no snark strings to pull on in that movie. And for me, it was still middle of the pack because it was exactly what I expect from a Hallmark movie. The girl from the big city, she's the businesswoman. She goes home. She falls in love again with her like former sweetheart back at home. So it's very standard Hallmark fare. I didn't really care much for the actress. I know she was in Glee. I don't remember her name, but
and it's like, I like the actress. I just didn't like her in this role. It was just.
She definitely, like in Glee, is more of a comedic character, and this was more of a dramatic character, and I kept waiting for a comedic beat that wasn't there.
And there was no comedy in this one.
All right, so what do we have?
So, okay, our next tier, which are ones that fill the Christmas season, right? They are what you expect from Hallmark, nothing more, nothing less.
So run of the mill, you could play a Hallmark bingo game card with this one and get bingo right away.
So I'm going to start off with one that we did podcast about, which was Jingle Bell Bride.
Great start to the season.
And, if you listen to that first episode of ours, I did not think it was a great start to the season. But having now watched half of the season, I can actually say
it was a
better start than it could have been. And so it was a fine story. I unfortunately have seen it again because it just comes on after every.
It has some elevated snarkability levels for me because there's definitely some snarkable things with that movie. And again, it was a strong start to the season. I think there's also something a little special for those early movies when you're not burnt out on them yet. So some of that is situational, but I very much enjoyed it. Another one that we found is very much a yellow movie is Never Kiss a Man in a Christmas Sweater, which wanted to be more than it was.
Yeah, it really wanted to make it to that top of the pack, but it did not.
And even Ashley Williams couldn't save it.
She couldn't save it. And that's it's because of Ashley Williams that it is in this tier and not the bottom tier.
Soldiers and gingerbread houses and a lot of nonsense. There are things that made no sense and beating people up with Christmas trees, but it just didn't get there with the comedy in the way that some of the other ones that had more non-traditional plots got us. So,
and then next is On the 12th Date of Christmas. For the sheer fact that I enjoyed the deep dive into the app development world that we went. Normally it's just like, I'm an app developer and that's all you get. I mean, this guy, like, we had the czar and the wizard, content creator and game overlord. I enjoyed kind of the play on itself. Her Christmas office alone kept it here.
Decor was snarkable here.
Right. And so for that, it's definitely like, if it's on, I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to seek it out. So it made it. And I also enjoyed all of the places of Chicago. All right. So here we go. Top tier countdown to Christmas movies.
So far.
Number
three. This is as of what? Tuesday of Thanksgiving? Monday night of Thanksgiving was our cutoff point because that was the halfway.
So Monday night of Thanksgiving week, our top tier.
We have 3.
We're going to start with what's kind of our lowest rung of our top tier, but still delightful. And if you haven't watched it, please make time for it because it's a timeless Christmas.
Yeah. And we didn't podcast about this one for various reasons. I think because
technical difficulties
came into play for us. And also it was just a really hard week across the board. But we did have a lot of snarkability with us. And we did live tweet it. So if you really want to see our thoughts on that, they do exist on our Twitter. But it's a time travel movie. So
at Christmas.
That elevates it because you're trying something new in terms of the types of plots that you can see in the movie. And I had to give it some props for that. So, yeah. And again, high snarkability rating. So.
Definitely. All right. This is where Tara and I diverge because we each have like our top tier. And so this is kind of a tie for we each have our own first place. So Tara, how about you tell them what your number one choice is?
My number one choice was The Christmas House because it had that right combination of multiple storylines. You get lots of the romance because you have romance happening for 3 different characters who are at 3 very different stages in their relationships. And then I think the writing was just a notch above the rest for some of the plot lines in terms of the jokes and the handsome justice bit and the house just being so snarkably over the top and like, what is this? But I would definitely watch this one again.
Yeah.
So it was very high up there for me.
I mean, it was a high one for me too, but my number one choice, and I think if you've listened to us, you'll know my heart has always stayed with One Royal Holiday.
It was very good.
It's just, I love royal Christmas stories. I thought that the Broadway actors in this did a tremendous job. The outfits, I also didn't feel as claustrophobic as I did in The Christmas House in terms of like set and scenery.
We had a whole inn instead of just a house.
And I love inns. And so it's like, I had to balance, like, I love gay, but I love Christmas royalty at an inn. And Christmas royalty at an inn beat out gay.
Yeah. Well, it has 2 things that you really like. You have a handful of things that are going to put a movie on the map for you. Things that you're really looking for in inns and royalty.
Yeah.
Are up there together.
They're up there together. I mean, Christmas magic and gay is the other one. So it was a tough call. But all 3 of those are definitely ones that you should watch and watch again because they are delightful.
Yeah. And Hallmark should be playing these throughout the season. So if you've missed them and you've heard us talk about them, you can catch those. I don't know exactly when they air because I know sometimes that also changes quite a bit. But, you know, there are many opportunities to catch these movies.
So that wraps up our Countdown to Christmas mid-season Snarksgiving review. Let's move over to Miracles of Christmas.
And this is the real treat because we haven't talked about many of these movies at all. So this is really your first glimpse into what we thought of these movies. And we didn't cover any of them last year either. So there is a little bit of a difference as we're starting to notice between some of the tones of the movies on these two channels. The movies and mysteries do tend to actually have a little more mystery plotline to them, but they also tend to be more on the dramatic side. That's where you see more of the serious topics. And so a little less snarkable in the comedy sense.
Right.
But, you know, we still have thoughts.
Right. Like Countdown to Christmas, your parents are already dead. Miracles of Christmas, they're actively dying.
Right.
Like that's kind of the difference.
You are more likely to see illnesses and orphaned. I mean, I guess there's orphaned children in all of these.
I have to say, I like the balance of the two channels in terms of the types of content. So let's again start at the bottom and work our way up. So we've watched 10 of the...
We've watched 9 so, because we haven't watched the Godwink Christmas one yet. So... that one was the Sunday night movie for Thanksgiving
I've heard
weekend.
good things about it. So. It's the third one out. So just to note, we're not including that in our review here. So bottom rung, Christmas Tree Lane.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
It was weird. And was it the kickoff to the whole season for them? That was the first one.
That was not a strong open.
They didn't start strong over there, for sure. They're trying to save Christmas Tree Lane in the town, and she runs a music shop, and she's falling for a guy, and then she realizes that he's the son of the owner of the company that is trying to take over Christmas Tree Lane and demolish it and turn it into strip malls or whatever apartment complexes. And so they're trying to save it through standing on the street and singing, which I'm not quite sure how that
the power of song
Christmas Tree Lane, but you know it was blah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one that like I'm okay not watching ever again.
Never seeing again. And I think Alicia Witt was the actress in that, and I haven't seen anything else she's in, so I would be interested to see her in.
She has an interesting song, a Christmas song out right now that I actually have listened to a couple times, and that I actually enjoyed.
But I did not enjoy her in that movie. No. So, and then the other one in our bottom tier, in our red tier, was The Christmas Bow.
Yeah, which might be controversial because lots of people loved this movie. We're not in that camp, and to me, it was. I think I might have seen one too many violin movies at this point.
There were a lot of music movies, a lot of violin movies.
But the leading actress,
I'm sure she's lovely. It was melodramatic, so it was just very sad faces for the whole movie. And so then I was like, oh, I'm sad too. I don't know. She just looks so forlorn.
But it was
the entire time.
This is the thing I don't like is when, I mean, I've seen it with some of our male actors as well, where they're just statically the same kind of disposition throughout the entire movie. And that's how I felt she was. Even though she is incredibly talented at playing the violin in real life, not just in this movie, the acting it was just too much sadness with no range. And a story that I just didn't find interesting because the acting pulled me out of it.
Right. And for me, it's the acting sad is not inherently more sophisticated or interesting a skill than some of the other happy or comedy or those things. And so just because someone is sad doesn't mean it's a deep or a better movie for me. So that one, those were our bottom two. But I actually have found that I kind of like a lot of the Miracles of Christmas movies a little bit more. So that's not, to say that we didn't like, those were two that were particularly bad. We have a yellow tier too, though. And what kind of things were in that one?
Okay, so The Christmas Ring. And this is one that got bumped to our mid-tier because it was so bad that it became incredibly snarkable and a comedy, even though it's not really meant to be a comedy. And so we actually found it delightful to hate watch.
And I think that this one might, if there was a special award for being most snarkable of the season, I think that The Christmas Ring would get it.
Absolutely.
The main character is just a trip of a human. And she's, trying to write the story about the story of this ring. And it's just why? Why? That's how I watched half of this movie. Their love will not last.
Nope.
He's gonna run for the hills.
Nor will her business.
She can't keep a job. She can't. Yeah, it's not a good path for her.
Okay, Tara, what is our next one in our mid-tier, the yellow tier?
Cranberry Christmas is solidly in this tier for me. Nikki DeLoach is the lead actress in this one. And I know that a lot of people really like her movies. Mm-hmm. And it was a really interesting premise that they are cranberry farmers and they run a cranberry business and everything.
It's the first time I've seen cranberry business as it's one that I don't know we should add to the wheel because will it come again? But it was refreshing. I also really enjoyed the fact that the couple wasn't finding love. It was finding each other again and a different kind of conflict.
They were separated and they were getting back together, basically finding love again and finding that purpose again. It was weird. It was kind of like, why were your problems so big? And then they're so quickly solved. I still had a lot of questions after watching it. And then also just like cranberry farming. But it had a pseudo Oprah character.
I was going to say, we got kind of like the Hallmark version of Oprah, which I actually enjoy.
And we got the house that also showed up in several of the other movies. So it became an old friend.
Right.
By the time we saw it in Christmas Ring, we saw it there. So, there were some memorable moments there, but not necessarily a standout
It's the
movie.
house that I wish was in the Christmas house.
Yes, it is a lovely house.
Mm-hmm.
And they have very good taste. So the next one that was in this tier for me, which Austin, I don't think you watched this one all that closely, but I did. I watched it, I think, twice.
Yeah.
Meet Me at Christmas.
Right.
And this is the one where she's the mother of the groom, mm-hmm. and they're getting married at this inn, I guess, or lodge. And the photographer, and she remembers that when they were kids, that they had met and fallen in love there. But when he didn't show up for the date,
she found someone else who ended
up being her husband. And so it's like these flashbacks. I thought the flashback storyline part was really interesting, but I'm not a fan of the lead actress.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to really get as invested. And also it was just kind of, again, like once we learned this backstory, it was like you wanted to shake her because she's like not letting him tell her why he didn't show up that day.
Right. It felt like a fake, like one of those like easy plot devices that writers use that doesn't feel genuine.
I don't want to hear why you didn't come that day. I don't want to hear it. And it's like he could just scream at her like, I was in the hospital. Like it was a legit reason.
Right.
Whatever.
And I felt like it would have been a more interesting story to me if they had kept the mystery alive longer, mm-hmm. that she didn't realize it was the same guy.
Right.
Like that, I think would have been, that it would have moved it up to the next tier for me.
Yeah. Hallmark really seems to do that a lot. They take things that could be better tension points and they just resolve them like with no real tension at all, and maybe no real mystery.
And maybe that's the point of Hallmark Christmas movies is to provide romance. No real tension whatsoever.
Right. Or the tension is always very, very light and resolved very quickly.
Okay, so we've got kind of a tie of where our like in our top tier green zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like which one comes in at the bottom of our top tier,
mm-hmm.
and so. Tara, you picked an interesting movie because most of the people that we know that watch this movie would not have even put it in the yellow zone.
I know people didn't like it, but I really did. I looked at it as my number 2 pick for the Miracles of Christmas movies. It was The Angel Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because I realized I do, in fact, have a crush on Jill Wagner. I finally was like, why do I find her so interesting? Oh,
what's that feeling?
She has an energy that I'm just like vibing with.
It's like Jodie Foster energy.
We did say that it's a bit of a Jodie Foster energy, and that brought up all my Jodie Foster childhood memories. So yeah, that explains a lot there. But I liked the ending in particular.
Yeah.
I liked the notion of like what the angel tree was and who was granting the wishes and how her involvement was there and her wish, that she put on the tree that she thought never came true. Lo and behold, all these years later, it came true. And I was like, yes, Jill Wagner, you get it. Like, Get your wish.
Yeah, I think this one got bumped up because of your lady crush. I do. But we're gonna leave it there.
I liked the kids too, the kid actors.
Yes, they were good. Because my next one was not in your top tier either.
It was in my yellow. I yellowed
so
it.
This is why
yeah.
we allowed each other like one bump up.
Right.
So mine was The Christmas Doctor. I really liked this story. I really liked the actors. And I really liked the setting. I've found like her kind of, there's always that one case that's driving her from town to town. You know, she was an army doctor. She lost a patient. And now she's working at a small town, like hospital doctor's office, and starts really bonding with him. She's living in a 1980s house. And I loved all of the jokes about like the 1980s decor.
That was funny. I did like that part.
And then I really it got me at the end. I cried when he revealed to her that it wasn't just a random selection. He picked her because he was the father of the son who of the patient she couldn't save. So
right.
He was like, I picked you because my son told me how good you were to him before he died.
Right. And that stuff, those feels, I think, are what separates the Miracles of Christmas, the movies and mysteries, from the other channel, is you get this sort of like the soldier didn't make it and you were his doctor. It's like this more sort of dramatic types of moments in addition to falling in love, which of course also happened in that movie. So
kind of second spot in our top tier for Miracles of Christmas, Deliver by Christmas.
Yes, a delightful movie.
I really enjoyed this one. And I think it's because I really like the you got mail premise. I like that kind of like cat and mouse game. It's a fun, like romantic romp. I don't think it's believable the way that they told it, but if I can like suspend that for a moment, it was delightful.
Yeah, I thought so too. And, you know, just it was earlier in the season too, so I think that elevates it a little bit because again, you're not 20 movies deep into this, so it's like, yeah, it didn't get buried. And then we did both have a favorite, a pretty clear favorite within this, which was Holly and Ivy. Yeah. We really enjoyed Holly and Ivy. We liked the foster parent storyline, and they tried to make it a little bit more believable to say, you know, you're really not going to be able to do this quickly. It's going to take a lot of work to get your house up to code. Again, like 1 or 2 days work with a team of people is probably not enough for that fixer-upper.
But at least they nodded to the fact that like you do have to pass a home inspection and it takes time. Like that is part of getting your foster's license, like, and the fact that you have to get a license in order to foster. You can't just say, I want to help helpless kids. Like,
and she goes to social services and has that conversation with them. Because the premise of the movie is she moves to this town and makes friends with her neighbor who has 2 girls, and the neighbor, her lymphoma came back. And she doesn't have anybody else family-wise that would be able to take the girls. And she instantly connects with the girls. I think we also like this because it mirrored a lot of our life journey. So Tara is a librarian. She's a librarian in the story. So her name is not Holly. The kids' names are Holly and Ivy. I thought the 2 women were Holly and Ivy before we watched it. So the kids' names are Holly and Ivy. So the lead character in this is a librarian, and she's trying desperately to find a job in this town, and she's doing everything that she can. And actually, I liked that it didn't work out for her. She decides to take a job that's less desirable because she's like, that's what I need to do if I'm going to take care of these kids. And the guy that she falls in love with is kind of doing the same thing. Right. And it's like, they recognize the reality of their situation, and they're not living in dreamland of like, I'm going to quit my job and start an online like newspaper or magazine and I'm gonna be able to make a living off of that. You know, she's worked hard, and she's gonna have to keep working hard, and it may not be at fluffy cranberry farming bakery Hallmark kind of job stuff. So
I also thought overall this had the best production of all the movies we have watched in terms of the cinematic quality, the audio production, and even like the acting overall. I think that Holly and Ivy is in my top tier overall because it was just so compelling and I wasn't distracted by like quick production values.
And it had a real death.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a death in a way that didn't necessarily make me cry because they did it through flashback. You knew that the mom is sick and that they're making these arrangements so that she can make sure her girls are taken care of by somebody and not going into the foster care system. They're going basically to a kinship placement. Because now kinship can be just people that know the kids.
Good friends.
People
family.
that are,
people
that are
valuable, like
part of the existing network. And then, you get a flash forward to the kids getting adopted because they say, yes, mom did die and we are being adopted. So you don't actually see like a tragic death scene, but she does die. And that again, I was like, oh, this is the difference between what we've got going on this channel and what we've got going on this channel. And it was kind of a little bit of a palate cleanser for all the kind of sickly sweet stuff we see on Countdown to Christmas. So I enjoyed that. Well, but I appreciated that.
So we want to share these things with you because if you haven't had a chance to watch any of these movies, 20 movies is a lot to catch up on. So at minimum, just watch our top tier ones and you'll be just right as rain.
So top tier, if you're looking at Countdown to Christmas, you want to look at One Royal Holiday, The Christmas House, and Timeless Christmas.
And for Miracles of Christmas, you want to watch Holly and Ivy, Deliver by Christmas, The Christmas Doctor, and The Angel Tree.
Right. And if you had to pick your numero uno, Austin, what would you say is like, you're put this in the vault. This is a good one from 2020. I will watch this. This is my favorite.
I am so torn. I really cannot decide between Holly and Ivy and One Royal Holiday. I really can't. Because they each provide, like, are you looking for like, if you kind of want to feel a little weepy and sentimental, then Holly and Ivy's the right one to watch. If you're looking for just like fun, then One Royal Holiday is the way to go. What about you?
I think for me, again, it's between Christmas House and Holly and Ivy. I think for Holly and Ivy, the downfall for that one, it was a great watch the first time. I don't know how much I'm going to get out of repeated watching. So it's like, it's a pack a punch, hit you in the feels, one-time watch. So in terms of rewatchability and like go in the vault status for me, Christmas House, because of just all the bits and the gags and the jokes. And I think you could watch it and there's so much going on that you can get something out of it every time.
Well, take what you will out of it. Maybe you'll let us know if you agree with our rankings. What are your favorite ones?
Yeah, and let us know. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So share, if you watch one of these or you disagree, let us know. And you can also continue to keep up with us as we watch the other 20 movies that are coming our way. So we have 12 more Countdown to Christmas movies, and we have 8 more of the Miracle of Christmas Movies and Mysteries ones. We probably will not necessarily cover those unless
something grabs us.
But definitely a lot of these Countdown to Christmas ones. We're only halfway through, Austin.
Well, because it feels like half of them are this week.
Right. And we are 3 deep into Thanksgiving week at this point, and that means we've still got another 6 to go in the next 6 days. So you can look forward to seeing that from us in the coming weeks as we count down to Christmas in 2020.
From our home to yours, we wish you a happy Snarksgiving.
Filled with lots of Hallmark movie love. So I've been Tara.
And I've been Austin.
Merry Christmas.
And happy holidays.